qualify this film?
Of course.
Good morning, mentors, fellow Toastmasters, and guests.
Good morning.
This is a WhatsApp message I got as late as last week. The movie is just 40 years old. Can I be a little insolent in asking the gathering here if anybody has not seen the film? What's that smile for? Is it a yes or a no?
We would have raised our hands, so we've all seen it.
So I assume that all of you are aware of this film. I must have been but a toddler when this movie was first released. And I cannot remember the first time I actually saw the movie in toto. But since, in the last 40 years, I have seen runs and reruns and several reruns on television. And I never grow tired of this film. I'm not a film buff, and it always makes me wonder, what is this timeless quality about this film? I've always tried to analyze this movie, this iconic film which is about 40 years old. Last month, I saw this movie with my 12-year-old son. He, who gets completely disturbed with this over-the-top music and romance in Indian films, hates to watch them. But this is one film without a murmur he watched and did not say anything adverse about. So I assume this movie transcends even age, leave alone gender and time. This film has me completely fascinated. I always wonder, is it the stars who essayed the role who made it so successful? Was it the plot? Was it the mystery surrounding it? Was it the music? Or was it even the pathos which made this movie Sholay so popular? Or was it just the sheer magnitude and the content of the film? If it is something that we grew up watching and we say, oh, we saw it as a child and therefore we like it, that theory is debunked. Do you know this famous song Macarena? All of you have danced to it in the 90s. Last month, it was voted as the most embarrassing song of all times. And at one time, all of us swore by it. So there are so many films that I have watched and I always thought, this is by far my best film. But 10 years hence, my hand is on my head saying, really, I actually like this film? But it never happens with Sholay. It's something that makes me wonder why. In fact, time and again, I have tried to analyze this movie and I realized this film is completely flawed in terms of theory. There is no internal logic in this film. Do you remember the sequence where Gabbar Singh, the dreaded dacoit, would raid at dusk, every single dusk, the village of Ramgarh? Do you remember? Yes. But Ramgarh was a dirt poor, parched village. God knows what he was trying to raid and what he was trying to find there. This is a mystery that both the director and the writer duo need to solve for us. And also, this movie is not even original. I'm told that this movie is a lift-off on a very famous Western film. It happened once upon a time in the West. And also it draws inspiration from another film called The Seven Samurais. Of course, there were two samurais in this film, unlike the seven. That is something that the writer-duo Salin Javed managed to do. In fact, if you try and look at the characterization also, it's highly formulaic and boring. We have Basanti, the gregarious one, Jay, the quiet, sarcastic one. Then we have Viru with his childlike innocence and humor. Then we have the dreaded Gabbar. Of course, we have the resolute Thakur. How many other Hindi films we have seen with similar characters? But why is it that we prefer watching them? And time and again without getting bored? I'm surprised. And this is what I'm trying to unravel every time I watch this film. When I say the internal logic is flawed, there is another theory too. This Sholay is a period film with dacoits on horseback, raiding villages, and we have two denim-clad youngsters of the 70s on their popular bike. Just does not make sense to me. And of course, critics the world over panned this movie for the unabashed use of violence. But Gabbar Singh went out to become a product unto himself. He in fact endorsed a popular brand of biscuits that is consumed by children. Doesn't the irony ever end? I am surprised, but this movie is iconic. When Shekhar Kapoor talks about it, he says, this movie which happened in the 70s is a benchmark in itself. When we say benchmark, he says, Hindi film industry can now be seen in terms of Sholay BC and Sholay AC. Undoubtedly, numerous rehashes of these movies have been made, but have not seen half the success. But let me also tell you, this movie with all its popularity ratings was actually a flop to begin with. It only became popular by word of mouth and never won a single award. In fact, the only thing that apparently it got a mention for was the editing during the Filmfare Awards. What is happening to Indian film industry? And today, to mouth a popular spoof, if someone were to ask you, "Arey o Samba, desert divas ne aaj kitne aadmi the?" What would you say?